Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. You can tell that the white media hasn't got any new plays in the playbook. They just do the same thing, only more of it. I told you that after this election, particularly the dynamic of black men and black women standing together on business this time around, they were going to be resorting to try to reinforce the old gender war, see if they can go ahead and get that old cow to walk a few more steps. After the 2024 election, we got the white media admitting black women are feeling betrayed. Well, finally, the white media is admitting that the Democrats haven't offered black women anything, and that's why they turned away. Oh, let's not stall here. AP, the Aryan propagandist, are saying that black women are feeling betrayed because Trump got more minority support this election than he did last time. Now, the entire point of this so-called article is to push the idea that only black women have remained true to democracy in America, and black women were the only ones who actually made sure that they voted to uphold American freedom and didn't give in to the fascistic orange man. And that's pretty much the gist of this entire propaganda piece. They don't even bother to mention the fact that Kamala Harris wasn't offering black women anything. You see, the real story behind how black women feel betrayed is that they saw through the Kamala Harris deception. Black female voter turnout was lower for Kamala than it was for Hillary. See, this is what happens when a so-called media organization only talks to black people who are bootlicks and shills on white power's payroll. Now, the AP piece basically says that Kamala's defeat was America making a statement about black women in specific. They wanted to hammer that point, and they're not the only ones, but this is a good case study in this particular talking point. The 2024 election, well, all you black women, you need to stay invested with the Democrats because this election was America saying they don't want black women to be president. They can't say black people in general because 8 years ago there was a biracial bootlick in the White House, and the point of this piece is to begin a steady drumbeat meant to get black women back on the treadmill. They are just so desperate to try to make black women in particular feel like Kamala losing somehow is a loss for them as a group, when Kamala Harris failed to prove that she even has black ancestry. And then you see some of the usual suspects mentioned in this propaganda piece, like Black Voters Matter, one of these sock puppet groups funded by white donors. That's the dark money you keep hearing about. The front woman for this group is LaTosha Brown, and it seems the black voter boycott of 2024 broke her. Oh, when bootlicking goes wrong, this election absolutely broke her. This is one of those main shills, along with She the People and a couple of others who have been out there trying to sell the soap that black women need to divest themselves politically from all of this rabble-rousing that black men have done. Instead, the opposite happened. It blew up in her face. The black vote solidifying its support behind a policy of disengagement, this broke her back, literally. The AP writes that, quote, politically engaged black women said they don't plan to continue positioning themselves in the vertebrae of the backbone of America's democracy. Now, previously, the white media had been using another phrase altogether, saying that black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. Remember that one? They were saying that one for years. Well, the white media decided to pile the phony praise on even higher this time, now saying that black women are the backbone of American democracy. Now, family, how many times do I have to say it? Dr. John Henrik Clarke said it. This country has never had democracy for a single moment of its entire existence. Black people, that means black men and women, have been categorically, systematically excluded from being full or even partial participants in the processes and prosperity of the country that we built. American democracy is an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. And claiming that black people of any segment are the backbone of this democracy, how can you be the backbone of something that doesn't exist? Now, whenever you see the white media ego stroking like this, that's 3 red flags that the manipulation is on full. It also means that they're worried. How can you be the backbone of a democracy that you've never experienced? But this is how propaganda works. It's like a con man. The con man's greatest asset is the person they're trying to con. The best way to con somebody is to let them con themselves. That's what's going on here. And this LaTosha Brown woman saying that America is going to have to save herself. She speaks very lovingly about a country that hasn't produced anything for black people, black men, or black women. Amazing. That's what happens, though, when you become one of these consultants. When you're on the take, what happens is you start talking just like these white supremacists do. Malcolm talked about that. He said you can tell when you're dealing with yourself a house Negro because they keep using we in places that doesn't make any sense for a black person to be using that phrase, we. Talking about things that ain't got nothing to do with black people. America is going to have to save herself. Oh, she loves America so much, don't she? Keep in mind, these were the same front women who white power employed to say that abortion was the biggest issue facing black America and that black women cared about abortion more than anything else. This is what groups like Black Voters Matter were saying. Look back in the archives of this very YouTube channel. I pointed out how that's what they had their people saying, especially with saying black men should be caring about abortion. Abortion isn't just a black women's issue. It's an issue of health care for the black community. Yeah, because how many black men are out there right now, like these Pookies and Ray Rays, saying, you know what, it'd be a good idea to make sure that my woman gets sent to the abortion mill if she gets knocked up. The black community is trying to have more babies, not less. And then, even in this AP piece, they had to mention, just as a throwaway, that there were black women who were actually saying that the economy was what mattered. Yeah, they know all about Trump and his racist antics. But how the world can you have a full head of steam about the orange man and fascism when you don't even have the ability to buy groceries or to put gasoline in your car? Talking about how Donald Trump's going to ruin America and turn America into some sort of dystopian nightmare, that rings hollow when you're already living a nightmare. That's the reality that Kamala Harris didn't want to admit to. That's the betrayal that a large number of black women were feeling. I reposted The Deadly Deception of Kamala Harris a couple of days ago, not just because I had made a promise that I would repost it, but also because it's something of a time capsule. It was made 7 years ago, and the political discourse within the black community was different 7 years ago than it is today. I was very strict about my message where black women are concerned because while we have a lot of rock-solid sisters here, a majority in fact, 7 years ago, we had a lot of the shea butter divester dead-enders who were still trying to keep their putrid little scheme going a little while longer, and they were attacking our channels and spamming our social media any time that somebody called out one of these black female bootlicks who was off code. You see, the shea butter crowd, they thought that by doing this, carpet bombing us with nonsense and gibberish, that this would give them immunity to be off code without criticism or critique, because that's what it's about to them. We had a big problem with those folks, so yes, we had to make it clear that when it comes to checking these shea butter bootlicks, the ski-wee contingent, black women are the ones who can be most effective at this. Black women being the ones who actually take the lead on checking these black female bootlicks, that's something the white media was counting on never happening. They figured to themselves that after 40 plus years of Oprahganda and sending out Donna Brazile and then later on Michelle Obama and others, that this basically made it where black women were feeling the sister girl routine. That's what they did it for. They always trot that one out. Well, it fell flat this time, to the point that they're terrified to even admit it. They can't. This is the sum of all fears. Now, after 2016 and the 2024 elections, it may seem as if what I'm talking about now was obvious, that black women were definitely going to be stepping forward, and inside of our particular sphere, that's true. But remember, when we talk about things like tipping points and critical mass, we're talking about reaching people who are not in our immediate sphere. We're talking about getting a larger number of people outside of our immediate circle on board, and that's what the message is for. That's what I was talking about in 2017 when I had those words for black women. Obviously, you're not going to preach to the choir here. I'm talking about the ones who actually were hearing the message, and we see that that's exactly how it played out. White supremacy believes in playing chess, not checkers, and that being the case, we have to make sure that we have them checkmated before the game even begins. That's the reason why the message was said the way that it was. This is important, because it's not some victimless crime when people like Vivica Fox get out there saying that black women are not part of the black community. That's nothing but straight up division, full stop. Because she said absolutely nothing about group economics. In fact, she didn't even say anything about black women in economics, and certainly nothing about reparations. All she was doing was being gung-ho for Biden originally, and when Kamala stepped in, she dropped her empty, pathetic demands and was telling everybody they need to vote for Kamala Harris because she's going to do things, even though Vivica Fox couldn't tell anyone what Kamala had done in her 4 years as vice president. Why does she think that a ploy like that would work? It's because the black community as a group has pretty much conditioned people to believe that we will actually get jolly in the behind when there's nothing to be getting happy about. Now, this AP article tries to make it seem that black women have taken all the blows to push American society forward. Never mind the fact that black men were also there. But you know who wasn't there? The Democrats. Something the article doesn't even mention. Democrats were backing everything and everyone except the black community. So when black women were taking the billy clubs of all of these racist cops in the 60s, and when black women have been the ones dying from the maternal mortality rate, and when black women have found themselves being murdered by the police, where the hell have the Democrats been at? Usually it's Democrat politicians who are the mayors of these cities where black people are being murdered and black women are getting gunned down. And it's also Democrat mayors who are appointing these racist police chiefs who are making sure these thugs and these race soldiers get away with murder. Now, the AP article ends with a quote from a therapist who says that the nation needs to understand the consequences of not standing in solidarity with black women. Again, the person who wasn't standing in solidarity with black women was the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris. This is the white media putting on display, telegraphing what it is they intend to do next, trying to put a spin on black women's involvement in the 2024 election so they can reinvent reality. Black women put their foot down and made it clear, if you're not stepping forward with tangibles, you can't have our support. They don't want this to become habit forming. So they're trying to turn it around and make it seem like, well, black women, they feel betrayed, not by Kamala Harris and the Democrats not doing anything for them, not offering them anything. No. They're fine with that. What they feel betrayed by is, well, a lot of these minority groups, they decided to back Trump, as if this is news. This is basically somebody trying to give black women a pat on the head, but that trick's not going to work. This is going to be a trend by the white media, though. You need to be aware of that. They have no new plays. They're going to keep coming back to this particular theme of black women are the guiding star and backbone of democracy, but nobody's going to say a word about what black women are going to get. This entire article only mentions the economy one time as it pertains to black women, and it mentions nothing specifically for black women at all. So the white media can continue cherry-picking whatever bootlicks and shills and Democrat consultants and operatives they want to talk to, all of these people who are nothing more than open operatives of the Democratic Party, auxiliaries of the DNC. And that's how blatant they are about it. I mean, there's barely 1 degree of separation between groups like Black Voters Matter and the Democratic National Committee. But what they're refusing to accept is the fact that black women see through the lies. Sure, they can go ahead and pile the lies up a mile high, but that doesn't matter. Black women are still seeing it for what it is. They're not being fooled. And when black women in particular decide to put their foot down about this, then where are they going to go to in order to push the divide and conquer scheme, huh? Are they going to go to black LGBT people? Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to try to run to some other segment of intersectionalist or what have you? No. So, sisters, take a bow. Our good buddies over at Black Voters Matter, they're over there boo-hooing. They're up there crying now. Their backs have been broken, and you were the ones who broke their backs. Because they were expecting that you were going to prop them up. That's what they thought was going to happen because Oprah Winfrey and Beyonce told them so. But you showed that you think your own thoughts and that you have an agenda of your own, and that agenda starts with tangibles. And of course, if you're not offering black voters, particularly black women, anything, then don't be surprised when they're not offering you any votes either. Elections are transactional, quid pro quo, something for something. When somebody shows up empty-handed, you're supposed to make sure that they leave empty-handed. You don't just give them something for nothing. So the AP can sit here and go ahead and do all the self-serving propaganda pieces that they want. It is true that black women feel betrayed. They feel betrayed by the very Democrats who were telling them lies for 3+ generations about what they were going to be doing for black people, only to find that it was just another rug pull. But unlike these sock puppet organizations like Black Voters Matter and She the People and others, when it comes to black women, particularly black women in the grassroots, when they're betrayed, they don't sit there and decide that they're going to be just walking away and they're just going to throw their hands up and say, oh, I guess we're defeated. And they don't wax poetic about how lovely and wonderful America is and she will have to defend herself now. Instead, black women who have their heads on straight, when they feel betrayed, they don't sit there looking around at these other groups and going, why is it that you guys didn't stand with the Democrats? Instead, the only thing on their minds is punishing the ones who betrayed them. And that's exactly what they did. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Joyce Blizzard, Avenge the Ancestors, Keitha Dixon, Fred Williams, and Christopher Smith. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.